The Student Life Manual is a complement to the Student Handbook. The Student Handbook explains the Board of Trustees approved policies of the college, while the Student Life Manual details these to help you make the most of your time at Patrick Henry College. Students will be notified of any substantive changes that occur and are responsible for reading, understanding, and abiding by all the policies and procedures contained within this publication. 1.1 Student Privacy Policy. As both an educational and financial institution, Patrick Henry College takes seriously its responsibility to protect the trust of its constituents, the privacy of their personal information, and seeks to be in compliance with applicable law. Patrick Henry College does not accept federal funds and is not legally obligated to the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974, as amended in 1994. No part of PHC's privacy policies are intended to imply any obligation under this act. This does not mean that PHC would otherwise be in violation of this act, in fact, provided that there is no compromise in the institution's ability to achieve its stated mission and purpose. It is the college's desire to provide students with confidence in the integrity and privacy of the educational record, which may manifest itself in similarities to the practices of other colleges and universities. Additional information about PHC's student privacy policy is available on the PHC intranet or by contacting the Office of the Registrar at registrar@phc.edu. 2.0 Community Guidelines. 2.1 Common Courtesy Reminders. 2.1.1 Attentiveness. When students are in class, chapel, or other such venue, they are to give the speaker their full, undivided attention. They are to avoid expressions, actions, and body language that communicate to the speaker that they do not care what the speaker says. 2.1.2 Respect for faculty members. Students should treat their professors and other campus authorities with honor and respect. Professors have academic freedom at PHC, which includes the right to conduct their classes and to assign grades as they see fit, subject only to the college's doctrinal statements and academic policies. Students do have the right to express academic complaints and grievances, but they must follow the process given in the Student Handbook, 5.3. They may also register dissatisfaction in the regular course evaluation process. But using other means, organizing or signing petitions against professors, attacking them via the internet, or taking other actions that denigrate faculty members, is not appropriate and violates the biblical principle of submission to the authorities whom God has put over us. 2.1.3 Forms of Address. Students should use the following forms when addressing faculty and staff, unless granted permission by them to do otherwise. Address those faculty members who have earned a doctorate degree as Dr. Surname and those who have not, as Professor Surname. Address the Dean of Student Life and others holding title of Dean as Dean. Surname. Address all other adults by title and surname. Address the Chancellor Emeritus of the college as Dr. Surname. Address the President of the college as President Surname. 2.1.4 Laptops. Generally speaking, it is not appropriate to use laptops during class time, except for the purpose of taking notes or for other course-related activities explicitly sanctioned by the professor. Emailing, messaging, playing computer games, or otherwise employing the laptop for personal use during class time is unacceptable. During class, all students are expected to give their full attention to what is transpiring in the class. Using the laptop for non-class related purposes is both distracting and disrespectful to the instructor and to other students. Students who are found using their laptops for frivolous purposes during class may be restricted from bringing their laptop into the classroom. Professors have the right to not allow the use of laptops in their classes. 2.1.5 Noise and Quiet Hours. Noise is to be kept at reasonable levels whenever and wherever possible. In study areas, including residence hall rooms, students should exercise deference toward those studying. Students wishing to listen to music must use headphones in all public study areas. During quiet hours and in all academic buildings during business hours, noise is to be kept at minimal levels. Quiet hours inside campus buildings are 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Quiet hours outside campus buildings are sunset to 8 a.m. During quiet hours, all music should be inaudible outside of a student's room. 2.1.6 Professional Behavior in Academic Buildings. Students are to remember that Founders Hall and the Barbara Hodel Center are office buildings and should conduct themselves accordingly. Professional behavior is expected in all public places, including the lobbies, classrooms, hallways, staff and faculty offices, library and dining hall. 2.1.7 Punctuality. Arriving late for class, chapel, or a VIP special event is inappropriate and disrespectful. Students are to be on time to such events. Students arriving late may be turned away. 2.1.8 Responsiveness. When faculty and staff communicate with students, email is often the preferred method of communication. It is imperative that students promptly read all the emails they receive from faculty or staff, making sure to respond within 48 hours or to be prepared to offer a valid reason for why they have been out of contact. 2.1.9 Tone of speech. Students' communication, both written and verbal, is to be respectful at all times. 2.2 Guidelines for Community Standards. 2.2.1 Alcohol. In considering a wise policy regarding the use of alcohol by students during their years at Patrick Henry College, it is important first to recognize that there are different Christian perspectives and practices regarding alcohol. From the beginning, PHC's intent was to create a culture and environment where all believers were welcome to study, worship and learn together regardless of their biblical perspective on this subject. The college's policy is not intended to advocate or refute any doctrinal position, but rather to apply prudent measures that will ensure a safe environment for all our students while furthering student development within the college's stated mission. In developing an alcohol policy, the leadership of the college considered 4 primary dimensions: 1. Biblical principles and injunctions, 2. Civil law, 3. Scientific research, and 4. Wisdom gained from the experiences of the college and like institutions. The Bible is very clear about the prohibition on drunkenness, however some denominations will teach abstinence as the best path to avoid drunkenness while others focus on the discipline of moderation as the best path. The college's policy on alcohol is not intended to be a theological statement, or a judgment on Christian practice, but is rather contemplated as a means of fostering a safe and inclusive environment for all degree-seeking students living in community at Patrick Henry College. It is intended to be based first in Scripture and then inclusive of civil law, scientific research, and godly wisdom. Due to historical and negative consequences of the misuse of alcohol by young adults, civil law prohibits the sale or use of alcohol to persons under the national drinking age of 21. Since most Patrick Henry College students are under the age of 21, the policy affirms that underage drinking is prohibited. When considering policy that affects students that are over the age of 21, the college considered public research on the subject, wisdom gained from experience with alcohol-related behaviors in college student populations at large, and the value of having a consistent policy for all students. Research indicates a number of negative effects of alcohol consumption on teens and young adults, including, but not limited to, increased risk of addiction if consumption begins prior to age 25, increased incidences of depression and suicidal thoughts and actions, diminished self or impulse control, impaired decision-making, and increased likelihood of associated risky behaviors. In addition, alcohol has been involved in many allegations of sexual misconduct. As the leadership of the college considered an alcohol policy, the underlying concern was always the safety of the students. In that light, it was appropriate to consider the experiences that Patrick Henry College and other similar institutions have had in past dealings with alcohol-related behaviors. Over the past years, alcohol consumption by PHC students has led to many of the harmful behaviors that are observable in small and large college settings alike. The information discussed above has led the leadership to believe that the college's current alcohol policy is the one that appears to be in the best interests of individual students, the families we serve, and the individual community in which we reside. The college recognizes that we are asking all students to follow this policy for the sake of others, even when they are of legal drinking age and know themselves to be responsible. In some cases, this is made more difficult as it is a course of action prescribed in college policy rather than by an accepted conviction of the Holy Spirit. For those students for whom this is a measured sacrifice, we hope you will consider this an expression of love and service to your Christian brothers and sisters with whom you are living in community. As stated in the Student Handbook, students will not possess or consume alcoholic beverages. Key college alcohol publications. Harvard School of Public Health. 2.2.2 Curfew. The college utilizes a graduated curfew policy in an attempt to help students develop greater levels of responsibility as they progress toward the completion of their degree. Assumed regardless of class is consideration of the primacy of the educational purpose of the college and the requirements that places on students for study and rest. Curfew is 12 a.m. on weeknights and 1 a.m. on weekends. Curfew ends at 5 a.m. on all days. There are 3 gradations of curfew privilege. Class 1 freshman or new resident under 21 years old and first semester in the residence halls. 10, 1 per night, 1-hour curfew extensions per semester. Class 2 sophomores or new resident over 21 years old and first semester in the residence halls. 15 1-hour curfew extensions per semester. Multiple extensions may be used. Class 3 juniors and seniors. Or over 21 years old and second semester or later in the residence halls. No curfew with the caveats below. 1. Caveats. A. Under no circumstances may a male student be in one of the ladies' residence halls during curfew, and vice versa. B. During the first hour after curfew begins, students may be in a same-gendered residence hall other than their own. Class 1 and 2 students must use a curfew extension to do so. No student may loiter anywhere else on campus during this time. C. If a student wishes to spend the duration of curfew in a residence hall that is not their own but is of the same gender, they must receive prior approval by the student's RA, the RA of the wing in which the student will be staying, and the occupants of the residence hall room in which the student will be staying. 2. Other rules. A. Class 1 and 2 students who realize they are going to be out later than anticipated should immediately call campus safety at 540-441-8888 and notify the officer on duty of the names of all students in their group and their anticipated time of arrival back on campus. This will give the college an official record of the students' whereabouts in case of an emergency. Upon their return, they should check in with the officer on duty. B. Class 1 students who wish to stay out all night for social events must receive written permission from a resident director. It is suggested that they contact the RD well in advance via email. They will use up 1 curfew extension for each of the hours they are out during the curfew period. They may be gone overnight for college-sponsored trips or events or to stay with relatives without using up extensions, but they must inform their resident assistant in advance. C. Class 2 students who choose to remain off campus all night for social events on non-school nights must first notify their resident assistant, preferably in advance. They will use up 1 curfew extension for each of the hours they are out during the curfew period. D. All students entering residence halls during curfew must respect the residence hall's quiet hours. All students who use a curfew extension must have an on-duty campus safety officer let them into their residence hall when they return to campus. No one else is allowed to let them into the residence halls. F. When a student on Class 1 curfew uses more than one curfew extension in a night, he will be charged as many curfew extensions as hours he stayed past curfew, plus an extra extension for violating Class 1 curfew. For example, if curfew is at midnight and a Class 1 student stays out until 2 a.m., he will be charged 3 curfew extensions, one for the hour violation between midnight and 1 a.m., another for the hour between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., and a third for violating Class 1 curfew. G. When a student has used all of his curfew extensions for a semester, he will receive a warning in email from a resident director. When a student uses more curfew extensions than he is allowed in a semester, he could lose curfew extensions for the following semester, receive a fine, or be required to stay on Class 1 or 2 curfew longer than other students. Those consequences will be administered on a case-by-case basis. 3. Any student's curfew privileges are subject to alteration or revocation by the Dean of Student Life if it is deemed appropriate for a violation of community standards. 2.2.3 Dance Policy. The intent of these dance guidelines is to help create an environment that will cast a vision for God-honoring celebration as well as to describe the boundaries for social dancing and dance events that are in keeping with the spirit of our community standards. Dancing is a way to celebrate, exercise, and have fun. It is the belief of the students, staff and faculty of Patrick Henry College that appropriate dancing is a well-loved pastime and hobby which students should be allowed to partake in. As such, dances are allowed on campus under the following provisions. Proposed campus dances must be approved by the Office of Student Life prior to it taking place. Dances must be proposed and sponsored by a recognized student organization. Campus dances will be restricted to certain locations as determined by the Office of Student Life. The student leaders planning the dance will be responsible for compliance with dance guidelines, care of facilities and conduct of attendees. The leader will also appoint an individual to meet with the 2 RAs designated by Student Life, to go over the prospective playlist which will be played at the dance. This individual will make sure that the music is not profane or explicit and that the lyrics are consistent with PHC standards. Time-place content restrictions include, after curfew hours, and possibly in the residence halls. Our purpose is to prevent any sort of inappropriate dancing. We wish to allow students to exercise their godly discernment as young adults, however inappropriate dancing will be dealt with accordingly. We wish to avoid putting students in a position of temptation, in which they would make a decision that is not in line with the college's statement of faith or community standards. Guidelines for dances. 1. Dance events are expected to be intentionally planned and not just random acts of coming together. 2. Campus-wide dance events are open to the Patrick Henry College community. 3. Non-college or off-campus groups are not invited. 4. With a variety of dance events there will be different styles of music and lyrics from which to choose. All music and lyrics need to be consistent with PHC standards. 5. Dance event and location need to be approved by the Office of Student Life. 6. The student leaders planning the dance will be responsible for compliance with all dance guidelines, care of the facility and conduct of attendees. Privileges to sponsor campus-wide dance events may be suspended in response to lack of compliance with guidelines for dance events, failure to care for the facility and/or in response to the conduct of attendees. 7. Some things to consider are, venue capacity, attire expectations, sound ordinances, beginning and end times, and other events on the campus calendar. 2.2.4 Dress Code. General Guidelines. In keeping with the distinctives of Patrick Henry College, students should dress modestly and appropriately at all times. The dress code applies whenever a student is in a co-ed environment. After 3 violations of business casual dress code, a student will be required to meet with a resident director. After 4 violations of the business casual dress code, a student will be fined $25. Guidelines for men and women. Shoes must be worn at all times in any educational building. Hair is to be kept clean and neat, avoiding particularly unusual styles unsuited to an academic environment. Guidelines for men. Shirts. Men must wear shirts at all times. Men are not to wear button-down shirts with more than 2 of top buttons unbuttoned, or to wear tank top underwear not covered by an outer layer of clothing. Hair. In the back, hair must be kept off the collar. On the sides, hair is not to extend below mid-ear. In the front, hair is to be kept out of the eyes. Facial hair should be kept trimmed, neat, and professional. Guidelines for women. Women should not wear clothes that are too revealing. Shorts. Shorts should extend mid-thigh. Skirts. Skirts and skirt slits should end no higher than 2 inches above the top of the knee when standing. Business casual. During business hours, students are to dress as would a professional working in a well-dressed business environment while in one of the college's educational buildings, with the exception of the library. In addition to the general guidelines above, students must observe the following guidelines for men and women. Students are to conceal tattoos. Students are not to wear visible body piercings with the exception of women wearing earrings. Guidelines for men. Shirt. Men are to wear collared shirts, tucked in. Nice sweaters and vests are also acceptable. No sweatshirts. Tie, if worn, must be neatly tied. Pants, nice slacks. No shorts, cargo pants or blue jeans. Shoes, dress shoes or loafers should be worn. Shoes should be professional and in good repair. No athletic shoes, sneakers, or casual sandals. Guidelines for women. Shirt, blouses and nice tops are to be worn. Skirt slacks, women are to wear skirts, dresses, or slacks. No blue jeans. Shoes, women are to wear dress shoes. Sandals that would be considered professional business attire may also be worn. Athletic shoes, sneakers, and flip-flops are not allowed. Appearance, unprofessional jewelry or makeup should be avoided. 2.2.5 Entertainment. Students being prepared to lead our nation and shape our culture will inevitably encounter the pop culture of our nation's entertainment industry. On the one hand, movies, television shows, music, video games, and other forms of entertainment can reveal much about contemporary culture. On the other hand, these entertainment forms often carry and promote the culture's worst values, including sinful uses of sexuality, contempt of life, and the rejection of God. PHC students may well learn to use some of these powerful media in ways that honor God and His truth, thus shaping the culture with timeless biblical values. In the meantime, PHC students must approach the products of the entertainment industry with discretion and discernment. Students should develop a critical and self-critical approach to their entertainment. They should cultivate genuine aesthetic taste so that they can recognize and prefer works of genuine artistic quality and merit. They should learn to understand what works of entertainment are. Communicating, both what is good and what is bad. Above all, they should become sensitive to the effect that the work has on others and on themselves. Above all, Christians must avoid sin. Some entertainment provokes lust, some create virtual experiences of harming other people, others create fantasies of greed or revenge. Jesus himself makes it clear that we can sin not just by overt actions but by what goes on in our hearts, and that we should avoid such occasions at all costs. The issue is not necessarily the content of a work of art but its effect. Violence in a movie can be presented so that it desensitizes the viewer, hardening the heart to human suffering. Violence can also be presented so that it makes the viewer more sensitive, creating a heightened compassion to human suffering. Some nudity is pornographic, designed to stimulate the viewer sexually. The nudity in classical art, the illustrations in medical textbooks, or the non-sexual nudity of concentration camp victims in Schindler's List usually is not sexually stimulating. Someone who is sexually stimulated by such things should avoid them, though this cannot be made a rule for art historians, medical doctors, and other people who are not so affected. What does this mean for PHC? Instead of giving strict rules about what is acceptable and what is not, we encourage students to consider with honesty and moral sensitivity the effect their entertainment choices have on them and on others. Any showing of films or videos on campus should consider the weaker brethren who might be harmed by what is shown. The administration and student life staff reserve the right to not allow certain entertainment on campus. Students whose use of entertainment, whether on or off campus, violates the principles stated here in a way that harms themselves or others may face disciplinary action. In classes, faculty members are urged to use discretion and to apply these same principles. But just as medical school students must dissect naked bodies and confront disease in order to master their profession, students being taught to lead the nation and shape the culture must sometimes dissect false ideas and confront unhealthy manifestations of the culture in an academic context. 2.2.6 Sexual Misconduct. See the Sexual Misconduct Policy on the student portal in CAMS for detailed information. 2.2.7 Weapons. See Campus Safety Manual on the student portal in CAMS. 2.3 Discipline Process within student life. Accountability and discipline are important aspects of the Christian life. Each student of the PHC community has committed himself or herself to live within the college's community standards and expectations of life and conduct which are included in the student handbook and student manual. When an individual fails to meet the responsibilities that are inherent in membership in this community, there is a need for accountability. The purpose therefore for accountability and of discipline at PHC is to create an opportunity for change and growth in the life of the student. Violations of the community standards are best handled among peers, following the example set forth in Matthew 18 verses 12 to 17. We in the community of PHC are called to be concerned about the welfare of other individuals in our community. We are called to care enough about each other that we are willing to confront each other. If after confronting the individual, the behavior does not change appropriately, it is then the community member's obligation to expand the circle of accountability. This accountability entails confrontation from an RA, resident director, or one of the deans. Those situations that are of a serious consequence to the individual or to the campus community may call for an immediate response by a student life staff member. It is desirable that this accountability occur at the level closet to the violation, peer-to-peer. Inappropriate behavior may first be confronted by the RA. In instances where the RA's involvement does not bring the appropriate change in behavior, the RA will take the situation to their resident director. Issues unresolved at that level will be sent to the deans to handle. At any point in the process of community accountability, a disciplinary response may occur. RAs and resident directors may administer some disciplinary sanctions. The process outlined here is designed to handle violations as expeditiously, wisely, and fairly as possible. Throughout the entire process, the aim is to be redemptive and developmental, helping the student grow in their relationship with God and with the members of the community. We are committed to providing a process that will both protect the rights of the students and be fundamentally fair. Throughout the entire process, the aim is to be redemptive. It should also be noted that confidentiality often prevents the disclosure of details that contribute to a decision, resulting in unanswered questions. Students voluntarily seeking help. Students are encouraged to utilize a voluntary referral procedure to request assistance with issues including but not limited to sexual relationships, pregnancy, eating disorders, same-sex attraction, self-harm, pornography, or the use of alcohol or tobacco. This process is available on a confidential basis. Students taking the initiative with student life staff, faculty or other PHC staff to seek help prior to the behavior being reported or identified by the college will not be subject to disciplinary actions related to the behavior provided the student demonstrates a good faith effort to address the behavior. 2.3.1 Minor violations. Minor violations may include but are not limited to the following: curfew, dress code, inappropriate dancing, inappropriate entertainment, inappropriate language, inappropriate displays of affection or noise. Violations at this level will be handled at the informal level, peer-to-peer, usually involving the resident assistant and the resident director. They will work with the offending student to bring about the appropriate changes in behavior. 2.3.2 More serious violations. Students who commit more serious violations could potentially face probation for at least 1 semester, suspension for a specified time, or expulsion from the college. The process for dealing with more serious violations is in the section of the disciplinary protocol outlined in 2.3.3. Serious violations may include, but are not limited to, the following: illegal drug use, intentional use of alcohol or tobacco, arrest by civil authorities, hazing and/or harassment, intentional damage to property of the college or others, academic dishonesty, possession of a prohibited weapon on campus, theft, unauthorized use or discharge of a weapon on campus. Other, sexual harassment and/or sexual assault will be handled according to the guidelines set in the sexual misconduct policy. Victims of assault will be given immunity for other community standard violations that may have existed at the time of the assault. 2.3.3 Disciplinary protocols for serious violations of the community standards. Step 1. First occurrence, admonition, a warning to the student that a violation of the community standards has occurred and that continuing of repeated behavior may result in additional sanctions. Step 2. Second occurrence, meeting official warning, a meeting with someone in the Office of Student Life as assigned by the Dean of Student Affairs. The intent of this meeting is to explain to the student what his or her wrongdoings is, why it is against the standards, and to take informal corrective steps to help the student with his or her violation. If during this meeting it is determined that the student would benefit from additional resources such as counseling, the RD will explain what resources are available on campus and discuss how the student may access those resources. The RD may also recommend the student seek input from their pastor or someone outside of the campus. This meeting will trigger the creation of an incident report that will be filed in the OSL. The student will also receive a written warning that indicates if immediate changes in behavior do not occur, the student will begin to lose some of the privileges associated with being a member of this community, and the student is in jeopardy of serious disciplinary action. Step 3. Third occurrence, formal response. The student will meet with one of the deans and a faculty member to determine disposition. Actions may range from a formal plan of action, i.e. probation, restitution, community service hours, removal from leadership positions, growth contract, etc., to suspension or expulsion, depending on the severity of the issue involved. The student retains the right to appeal the decisions made during this phase as outlined the judicial process. Letter may be sent to parents and academic advisor. 2.3.4 Disciplinary procedures. Violations which the Office of Student Life becomes aware of will be handled in the following way. The Dean of Student Affairs will determine the appropriate person to address the violation. Preliminary procedures. Reporting and investigation. Any member of the PHC community may report information regarding an incident of misconduct to their RA or RD. The OSL shall assume responsibility for investigating the incident and the matter will be discussed with the accused. The Dean of Student Affairs will decide whether to dismiss the matter without further action or refer the matter for a hearing. The accused will have the option to handle the incident informally with one of the deans or to handle it formally before a hearing board. 2.4 Judicial Process. See 1.4 Judicial Process Details of Appendix A 2.4.1. Sanctions. The OSL or a board may choose to assign one or more of these penalties to a student who is found, based on the evidence available, to be responsible for the action of which the student is accused. A. Warning: a student may be given a formal written reprimand. B. Restitution: a student may be required to provide financial compensation to PHC or other parties in order to cover the cost of damaged property. C. Monetary fine: a student may be required to pay a specified fine. D. Work hours: a student may be required to work a specified number of hours on campus without pay. E. Community service hours: a student may be assigned a number of hours they need to do volunteer work somewhere. F. Counseling: a student may be required to meet with a counselor. G. Removal of activities or privileges for a specific period: the student may not participate in college clubs, events, and extracurricular activities. This includes intercollegiate and intramural athletics, student government, and other social events. H. Involuntary removal of offending cause: if a student's property, such as pets or sound systems, is the subject of a complaint, the student may be required to remove the property from campus. I. Involuntary relocation: involuntary relocation requires a student to move to a different room, different residence hall, or off campus by a specific date. J. Probation: probation is a specific period of time during which the student's behavior is under a special scrutiny. Violations occurring during this time will be considered more serious than they would without the condition of disciplinary probation. K. Suspension from the campus: the student will not be permitted to engage in PHC activities and may not reside or eat on campus for a specific period of time. This suspension may also extend to the remainder of the semester and require the student to reapply for admission to the college. L. Expulsion: student status is permanently terminated. 3.0 Academics. Academic policies and information are also located in the catalog and the student handbook. 3.1 Guests in the classroom. We welcome visitors to the college. If students wish to bring guests to class, they must email the professor teaching the course at least 48 hours in advance and receive the professor's approval. If visitors are on an official admission visit, both the Office of Admissions and the professor must approve the classroom visit. It is understood that visitors to a class should not attempt to participate in discussion unless invited to do so by the professor. 3.2 Library. The library is available to all PHC students. It is the library's goal to meet the information needs of the college community. The staff are available to assist you, whether to answer a library policy question, to help locate a specific resource, or to help you design a research method. We strive to provide the information resources, services and facilities that will enable you to succeed at Patrick Henry College. Casual dress is allowed in the library during business hours. For further information regarding library collections, services, and policies, please consult the current library guidebook, which is available in the library. 4.0 Residence Life. 4.1 Resident Directors and Resident Assistants. Students with questions or concerns about matters regarding other students or campus life in general are encouraged to speak to their resident assistant or some other member of the student life staff. Resident assistants are directly accountable to the resident directors and the Dean of Student Life for ensuring that college policies are upheld. Resident assistants also serve the student body by working with the Office of Facilities to ensure that the students' practical needs in the residence halls are met. This can involve building maintenance, cleaning rotation supervision, and supplies inventory. The resident directors supervise the resident assistants and are responsible for all students living in the residence halls. They are administrators of residence hall life in general and work closely with the Dean of Student Life in setting campus guidelines. Resident Directors: John Southards, Kiara Colgan. Resident Assistants: Resident Assistants' contact information will be posted in the residence halls. 4.2 Residence Hall Assignments and Roommates. Residence halls are primarily for students taking 12 or more credits per semester. Part-time students wishing to establish residence in a residence hall must obtain permission from the Dean of Student Affairs. Students who drop below 12 credits may be denied access to the residence halls, along with any associated financial aid. All students are required to complete a housing agreement form upon their arrival on campus for each academic year. The Office of Student Life assigns roommates for the entire semester. We attempt to accommodate roommate requests, but the assignments, once made, are final, with rare exception. If a serious roommate issue develops, students should talk to their resident assistant and seek to resolve it. No student may switch rooms without the written permission of the Dean of Student Affairs. 4.3 Early Arrivals and Late Departures. During the beginning and end of the year, the Office of Student Life and the Office of Admissions often receive requests from students to either come earlier or leave later than the dates set by the college. The dates are established to allow the college to make check-in and check-out as efficient as possible. We would like to accommodate every request, but as we grow this becomes increasingly difficult. Out of a desire to help you and a desire to protect our services, we want you to consider the following options for early arrivals. Go to click Admissions, click Visit PHC, click Lodging, and decide on lodging from the options listed on this webpage. If you desire to move your things into your room or to move on campus early, at our discretion we may allow you to do so for $80 per night. The payment needs to be made out to PHC and mailed to the Office of Student Life 2 weeks prior to your arrival. This option is dependent on whether space is available and suitable for occupancy. There are no options for late departures, as the college must prepare for summer camps. Students will be fined $25 for not leaving by the appointed time, with an additional $10 per hour late. 4.4 Visitors and Overnight Guests. Visitors must leave the residence halls by curfew. Permission to host an overnight guest must be obtained from the Office of Student Life at least 48 hours in advance. Forms received 24 hours in advance will be charged a single extra pass, and forms received the day of arrival will be charged 2 extra passes. Overnight guests should also be approved by a student's roommate and resident assistant. Guests over 28 and under 14 must be approved beforehand by the Dean of Student Affairs. Each student has 7 guest passes per semester. After 7 passes have been used, the cost per guest is $20 per night. If a student has overnight guest without submitting a guest pass beforehand to the RDs, the fine is $20 per guest for every night the guest stayed, with a maximum fine of $100. Checks should be made payable to PHC and turned in to the Office of Student Life. Students are responsible for reminding their guests that Patrick Henry College's community standards apply to them as well while they are on campus. Visitors to the college are not allowed to stay overnight in the residence halls the week preceding the beginning or end of a semester, orientation days, final exam period, or graduation day. 4.6 Residence Hall Policies. 4.6.1 Personal Conduct. All occupants are required to acknowledge and abide by all Patrick Henry College standards in effect at the time of occupancy. During curfew hours, no student may linger anywhere on campus outside of their own residence hall without authorization unless they are in a same-gender dorm during the first hour of curfew. Occupants should dress modestly and appropriately at all times while on campus. All occupants must immediately exit the building by the designated exit routes whenever the fire alarm sounds. 4.6.2 Dorm Rooms. Occupants are not to tamper with curtains, blinds, or smoke detectors, hang racks or holders over the room door, remove screens from the windows, or put holes in the window frames, doors, or furniture. Occupants may only use thumb tacks, push pins, or picture hangers to mount pictures or posters to painted walls. No other fasteners, hangers, tapes or adhesives of any kind are permitted. Occupants may only use tapes or adhesives for mounting pictures and posters to the stained hardwood doors and furniture. Said tapes or adhesives must be expressly designed by the manufacturer for such applications and must be easily removable without leaving any adhesive residue on, discoloration to, damage to, or removal of the clear coat finish of the stained hardwood. Inappropriate or offensive posters or room displays are prohibited. 4.6.3 Dorm Room Furniture. Furniture may not be disassembled. The fine for disassembling furniture is $500. Furniture may be rearranged in the room, but may not be removed from the room. Occupants are financially responsible for the replacement cost of any damaged or lost furniture. Homemade loft beds are prohibited. Occupants must provide their own bedding for an extra-long twin mattress. All stairwells and hallways must be kept clear of all items at all times. 4.6.4 Property damage. Occupants and their resident assistant must inspect and complete a check-in form documenting the condition of the room upon move-in. Occupants and their resident assistant must inspect and complete a checkout form documenting the condition of the room upon move-out. Occupants are financially responsible for the repair of any property damage they cause that is considered to be beyond normal wear and tear. A property damage repair fee chart will be used to determine applicable charges. The occupants of the room will be equally liable for up to 200% of any repair or cleaning costs that are not expressly listed on the property damage repair fee chart. 4.6.5 Appliances. No candles, halogen lamps, electric blankets, heating pads, space heaters, any source of open flame or anything else that can cause a fire are allowed in the residence halls. The only food storage cooking appliances permitted to be used inside the residence halls are small refrigerators, microwaves, coffee makers, hot pots, and popcorn poppers. All other food storage cooking appliances are prohibited for safety and insurance reasons. Clothes irons must be equipped with safety switches that turn off when not in use. Personal charcoal barbecue grills are prohibited on campus. Community charcoal grills are provided in locations behind the dorms. 4.6.7 Windows, screens, heating, air conditioning, and lights. Residence hall windows may only be open when at least one occupant is in the room and not during foul weather. The last one to leave the room must make sure that all windows are closed, latched, and locked. Residence hall windows may only be open when the room's heater air conditioner is turned off. Screens shall not be removed from the windows. There is a $25 fine for removing screens. Do not turn off bathroom lights fan manually, allow automatic switch to operate. 4.6.8 Housekeeping and maintenance. Occupants are expected to keep their dorm rooms and all common areas clean at all times. All trash receptacles shall be emptied as needed. Occupants should report all maintenance needs to the facility services as soon as possible via maintenance requests submitted at 4.6.9 Storage. During the school year, students must plan to store all their belongings inside their assigned dorm room. Students wishing to store luggage, etc. in their dorm's attic must make arrangements through their resident assistant. During the summer, all departing students must remove their belongings from their residence hall. No storage is provided through the summer. Any items left behind will be discarded. April 6-10, Laundry. Laundry rooms are available on each floor of the residence halls. Only occupants are permitted to use the laundry rooms. Occupants should promptly transfer their wash loads to the dryer, and promptly remove their dry loads from the dryer and take their clothes back to their dorm room. Laundry machines are operated via credit or debit card. April 6-11, Dorm Lounge. Dorm lounges are available on the first floor of the residence halls. Students may not remove furniture, artwork, or electronic equipment from the dorm lounges. Students may not move furniture or artwork into a dorm lounge without written permission from the Dean of Student Life. April 6-12, Entertainment Equipment. The college provides a TV and DVD player in each residence hall. Occupants may not tamper with, deactivate, or remove any of the college's installed entertainment equipment. No personal electronic equipment may be connected to the college's electronic equipment without prior approval by the Information Technology Department. April 6-13, Noise and Quiet Hours. Noise is to be kept at reasonable levels whenever and wherever possible. Occupants wishing to listen to music must use headphones earbuds in all public study areas. During quiet hours, noise is to be kept at minimal levels. Quiet hours inside campus buildings are 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Quiet hours outside campus buildings are sunset to 8 a.m. During quiet hours, all music must be inaudible outside of an occupant's room. April 6-14, Access Restrictions. Residence halls are not co-ed. Co-ed visitors to a dorm are permitted only in the dorm's lobby and lounge, and must leave no later than curfew. Occupants should keep their dorm rooms locked at all times of vacancy for security purposes. The college is not responsible for missing or stolen personal items. Occupants are not permitted to unlock the front door of a residence hall to facilitate entrance for non-occupants unknown to them. No pets or animals are allowed inside the residence halls. April 6-15, Visitors and Overnight Guests. Visitors must leave the residence hall no later than curfew. No overnight guests are allowed without prior approval through the Office of Student Life. See Section 4.4 above. April 6-16, Personal Property Liability. The college limits its liability for catastrophic loss of occupants' personal belongings in the residence halls if a covered loss is incurred and the occupant has no personal coverage. Occupants will be reimbursed for no more than $1,000 of the value of their personal belongings, but only if the college's insurance carrier pays a claim to the college on its personal property of others' coverage. Occupants should ensure satisfactory coverage through a personal renter's or homeowner's policy. April 6-17, Weapons Policy. See Campus Safety Manual on the Student Portal in CAMS. April 6-18, College Right of Entry. The college reserves the right to enter dormitory rooms at any time, for institutional purposes for the health and safety of students and enforcing college rules and regulations. Maintenance Custodial also reserves the right to enter dormitory rooms at any time for maintenance reasons. Maintenance Custodial will make every effort to respect the privacy of the room's occupant. 4.7, Off-Campus Housing Guidelines. God has blessed Patrick Henry College with beautiful and functional residence halls, and we seek to be good stewards of them. We construct them with quality materials, keep them clean and in good repair, and seek to live in them in a respectful manner. Another way we seek to be good stewards is by using our residence halls to their full capacity. We also value the community atmosphere that is created by the majority of our students living on campus, and research shows that students who live on campus generally do better academically than those who move off campus. Therefore, full-time students not living with their parents should expect to live on campus. Exceptions to this policy may be granted if a student meets at least one of the criteria below. Students who wish to live off-campus must fill out the off-campus housing application form available from the OSL. Student will be living at home with his/her parents or guardians. Student will be part-time. Student has an internship that requires that he/she move closer to the internship site. Student is 21 years of age prior to start of the academic year. Student is married. Student has extraordinary personal hardship, including financial difficulties. As the college develops, good stewardship before God will require us to manage the level of occupancy in the residence halls. At times, we will need to allow more students to live off campus. At other times, we will need to reduce the number living off campus. Each year, the college administration will determine the number of off-campus spaces that will be available for both men and women. Students who wish to live off-campus will be considered if they submit an off-campus housing application to the Office of Student Life during the spring semester. Applications must be received by the deadline established each year, and students who apply after the deadline may face a late fee. Applications will be reviewed and prioritized according to criteria established by the Office of Student Life. Students who wish to live off campus in the fall must submit the application to the OSL by the deadline set in the spring semester. An off-campus housing review committee will apply these criteria to select those who will be approved to move off campus the following year. 5.0 Student Activities. Patrick Henry College's Office of Student Life seeks to build campus-wide unity through offering quality activities and services for the entire student body. It is their goal to help students get acquainted, involved, and build quality friendships throughout the college community. All students who elect to participate in any athletic, intramural, or fitness activities offered by or through the college are required to complete a student participation agreement and release form. Any activity sponsored by a student group must be approved by an appropriate faculty advisor and/or the Dean of Student Affairs. 5.1 Athletics. 5.1.1 Intramural. Both men and women have the opportunity to participate in intramural sports. Physical development is a part of the curricular and co-curricular programs of the college. Intramural sports may include basketball, softball, table tennis, volleyball, soccer, pickleball, and ultimate frisbee. 5.1.2 Intercollegiate. Patrick Henry College currently competes in men's and women's soccer and men's basketball. Women's basketball may be offered depending on interest. All students participating in intercollegiate athletics must maintain a cumulative grade point average of 2.0. 5.2 Forensics. Patrick Henry College is involved in various forms of collegiate forensics competition. For additional information, contact Sue Johnson. 5.3 Ministry and Community Involvement. Students are encouraged to actively involve themselves in ministry and outreach to the community. Part of this will follow naturally from a commitment to a local church. Wherever students choose to worship, we encourage involvement and participation in church activities and opportunities. Throughout the year, flyers and announcements about ministry and community involvement opportunities may be posted on bulletin boards or distributed through email. 5.4 Student Government. Student government is a way for students to have an organized voice in matters that directly affect them. It is also the means by which many of the extracurricular interests and activities of campus life are organized and implemented. Elections are held each year to fill the student senate and executive positions. Bylaws are available for all students to read on the PHC website. See the Student Handbook for more information on college governance and student affairs policy. 5.5 Student organizations. A number of student organizations exist on campus. Some of the official student organizations include Eden Troop, the Socratic Club, the College Republican Club, and the Fencing Club. For an up-to-date listing of campus organizations and their current leadership, or for information on how to start an organization, contact the Office of Student Life. 6.0 Spiritual Life. 6.1 Chapel. The chapel ministry is an important part of the life of Patrick Henry College. We are firmly committed to the belief that chapel is an integral part of our education process. It enables everyone involved in fulfilling the mission of the school to come together corporately to worship the Lord. By meeting regularly, PHC faculty, staff, and students are reminded and encouraged to pursue an active and vibrant relationship with God in all that they do. A college education at PHC is challenging and requires much time and effort to successfully accomplish all that is required. As busy as things get, however, time must also be spent cultivating a relationship with Christ. Through the chapel ministry, the PHC community, as well as anyone outside of PHC looking at the college, can see that the college's faith in Christ is important and central to the education one receives here. Furthermore, the chapel ministry provides an opportunity to come daily into Christ's presence through worship, hearing God's word, and prayer. Christ is the focus of the PHC community, and chapel is a means by which the PHC community can worship Him together. Chapel ministry events are held 5 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in Town Hall at 10:20 a.m., and Tuesday and Thursday in smaller group locations at 9:40 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday chapel services include a time of worship and a message by a Christian speaker. On Tuesday and Thursday mornings, wing chapels meet at various locations under the direction of each wing's RA, typically focusing on a selection from Scripture or from some prominent Christian work. Wing chapels provide an opportunity to get to know one another in a smaller group setting. 6.1.1 Chapel Attendance Policies. Attendance at corporate chapel and wing chapel is mandatory. All students are required to attend chapel. Students will scan into corporate chapel when they enter town hall. Students are permitted 10 absences. These absences may be used for sleep, study, illness, non-school related trips, irregular work schedules, interviews, doctor's appointments, and trips to the airport, etc. College-related travel will not be counted against the allowed absences. Unused absences do not carry over to future semesters. Chapel warning. Students who exceed their 10 absences in a semester will receive a chapel warning email from the Student Life Office with instructions requiring a dialogue with a resident director. The meeting is an opportunity to connect, discuss challenges to chapel attendance, and to be encouraged. Chapel probation. If a student continues to miss chapel after they have been put on chapel warning and have met with a resident director, they will be placed on chapel probation. They will receive a letter from the Dean of Students informing them of their new status, and an enrollment registration hold will be communicated to the registrar's office. The student will be required to meet with the dean to have the hold removed. The purpose of this meeting is to determine why the student continues to miss chapel and how to best address the challenges. Ultimately, students who show a disregard for chapel may be asked not to return for the following semester. Exemptions from mandatory chapel attendance may be granted to the following: students who live off campus and have no classes immediately before or after the chapel period. Students who are away from campus during the chapel period because of an internship. Students with work responsibilities. To receive a chapel exemption, one must fill out a chapel exemption form with the OSL, including a copy of the student's semester schedule and other documentation. When exempt students do happen to be on campus during the time for chapel, they will be expected to attend. Students who must miss chapel because they are ill should inform their RA. Monitoring chapel attendance may be done in various ways, whether collecting attendance cards, recording attendance electronically, or using the honor system in which students keep track of their own attendance. 6.2 Local churches. Students of Patrick Henry College are required to be involved in a local church. There are many good churches from nearly every denomination in the area. A list of churches is provided on the website at 6.3 Mentoring and Accountability Partners. Part of the success of the Christian life is found in the ability to form close friendships with other Christians. The Bible tells us that, as iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. It also says that the older men should teach the younger men, and the older women, the younger ones. Many students that come on campus naturally form mentorship relationships with upper-class men, alumni, and members of the faculty and staff. If a student wishes to meet regularly with a potential mentor or accountability partner, they should feel free to respectfully approach the individual to discuss the possibility of being mentored. The Student Life Office has a list of individuals who would enjoy mentoring a student. 7.0 Health Office. The Health Office is currently unstaffed. The Health Office serves to provide students with nursing services. A RN is available 2 days a week from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Changes in days of availability will be posted. The RN provides physical assessment, suggestions for interventions, health education, counseling, referrals to community health resources, provides health seminars in residence halls and maintains health records of students. 7.1 Counseling. Patrick Henry College is committed to providing the best help available to our students. We have contracted with some local professional counselors to provide on-campus counseling to our students free of charge to the student. Our counselors seek to utilize their professional training to assist students in their growth and development. They offer individual counseling appointments as well as small group opportunities. They are available to meet with students in the Student Life Auxiliary Office, on a limited basis. Additionally, Student Life has a library of books and resources on a variety of topics available to students, and maintains a list of professional Christian counselors in the area. 7.2 Procedures for Involuntary Leave of Absence. It is the policy of Patrick Henry College to foster a campus environment that is conducive to learning, promotes its educational programs and maintains reasonable order, and protects the rights and safety of all its members. In extraordinary circumstances, the college may place a student on an involuntary leave of absence or take other appropriate action for reasons of personal or community safety. The college may initiate an involuntary leave of absence when a student exhibits behavior that could disrupt the academic process or present a danger to other members of the college community. This policy may also apply to any student returning from a hospital confinement who needs extended observation or supervision. The following are some situations in which such action would be appropriate. 1. The student's behavior appears to pose a danger to the life, health, or safety of themselves or of other members of the college community, or to the college, its property, or the property of another member of the college community. 2. The student's behavior renders him or her unable to function safely or effectively in the college's programs, activities, or facilities without harming himself or herself. 3. The student refuses or is unable to cooperate with a recommended evaluation or treatment procedure, and the student acts or threatens to act in a manner that would interfere with or disrupt the educational process or the legitimate activities of other members of the college community. When the college has evidence of the behavioral problems listed above, a medical psychological evaluation may be required, the results of which will be provided to the Dean of Student Affairs. In addition, the Dean of Student Affairs or her designee may consult with the student about his or her behavior and may involve the student's parent, guardian, or other appropriate adult. The Dean of Student Affairs, in conjunction with other leadership of the college, will make the final decision regarding approval of an involuntary leave of absence. Post-hospitalization for mental health concerns policy. According to research, the risk of self-harm is particularly high in the first few weeks following discharge from a hospital. Therefore, upon return to campus, the student who has been hospitalized will review a care plan with one of the deans in student life. The purpose of this meeting will be to provide a set of expectations for a return to campus life and outline a plan for follow-up care. Notification of discharge. The student will sign a release of information permitting the hospital to notify the Dean of Students regarding the student's discharge from treatment, medication, and follow-up care requirements. The Dean will notify others that need to be involved. Should a student or staff member be notified by the student of his or her discharge and request a ride, that person must notify someone in the student life office prior to picking up the student from the hospital for return to campus. Return to campus. The student will check in with their resident director on return to campus. The RD will assist the student in transitioning back to resident life. Care plan meeting with one of the deans of student life. The meeting with the dean will take place within 24 hours of the student returning to campus. If the student is discharged on the weekend, the meeting will take place on Monday. The dean will attempt to schedule the meeting time with the student through a hospital case manager prior to the student being discharged. 8.0 Campus Operations, Services, and Facilities. 8.1 Bookstore. The Patrick Henry College Bookstore is open Monday through Wednesday and Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Closed on Tuesday and Thursday 8:30 a.m. to noon. The bookstore offers all required textbooks for PHC, as well as college apparel and memorabilia. 8.2 Dining Commons. The college's full-service campus kitchen is located on the first floor of the Barbara Hodel Center. The serving line is open only during meal service hours, which are as follows. Monday to Friday. Breakfast, 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Lunch, 11:15 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Dinner, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Breakfast, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Lunch, 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Dinner, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. 8.2.1 Food Service Terms and Conditions for Students. All resident students must purchase a meal plan for each academic semester in which they reside in a college residence hall. Only those resident students with a college-approved medical exemption or a college-approved internship exemption may be excused from this requirement. First-year freshman resident students must purchase the 21 meal per week plan. This plan allows access to the dining commons during all meal service periods offered within a Sunday through Saturday week. First-year resident students who are sophomores and above and resident students returning for their second or subsequent years may purchase either the 21 meal per week plan or the 15 meal per week plan. The 15 meal per week plan allows access to the dining commons for any meal service period offered within a Sunday through Saturday week up to 15 entries. After 15 entries within any Sunday through Saturday week, the student must then pay retail for each subsequent entry desired until the start of the next Sunday through Saturday week. The only opportunity to change meal plans is prior to the start of the applicable academic semester. Any change after the time of initial selection and prior to the start of the applicable academic semester will be assessed a $25 administrative fee. No changes in meal plans may be made once the applicable academic semester begins. Participation in a meal plan does not establish or entitle any personal ownership of all the food in the dining commons, but only that food which one personally consumes while inside the dining commons during the applicable meal service period. Meal plan privileges are only provided for the benefit of the resident student who purchased the plan. Meal plan privileges are not transferable to any other person. There is no credit accrual provided for missed meal service periods or meals not consumed. Resident students with food allergies or special diet needs should promptly contact kitchen staff upon their initial arrival onto campus at the beginning of the semester to make special arrangements. Entry into the dining commons is only permitted through the entrance doors directly in front of the cashier station and only when approved by the cashier. Patrons are prohibited from entering through any other exit doors. Patrons are prohibited from letting any other persons into the dining commons through any other exit doors. Resident students must place their issued PHC student ID card in contact with the card reader upon entry into the dining commons for any meal service period. Each successful placement of the PHC student ID card in contact with the card reader deducts from the 21 or 15 meal per week accrual applicable to the student's meal plan. Students who want to enter the dining commons without their ID card must pay the retail price for the applicable meal service period. Students may not proceed past the entrance cashier station until approved for entry by the cashier. Resident students may only enter the dining commons once during each meal service period. After initial entry during a meal service period, no exit and re-entry is permitted without paying the retail price for the applicable meal service period. Patrons who need to use the restroom may leave their ID card or receipt with the cashier and retrieve it upon re-entry without having to pay again. If a PHC student wants to enter the dining commons during a meal service period without partaking any of the food or drink offered therein, he/she must present their ID card to the cashier. The cashier will then press a "No Charge" button and swipe the student's ID card. The cashier will also stamp the back of the student's hand with a hand stamp. Resident students who are too sick to come to the dining commons to eat may arrange for a sick meal through their RA. An authorization form must then be presented by the courier along with the sick student's PHC student ID card to obtain a to-go container. Except for sick meals, resident students may not swipe any other student's PHC student ID card to gain entry into the dining commons. Except for sick meals, resident students may not allow any other person to use their PHC student ID card to gain entry into the dining commons. Guests of resident students are welcome to enter the dining commons by paying the retail price for the applicable meal service period at the entrance cashier station. Patrons who need to carry out their meal may purchase a single to-go container for an additional $1. To-go patrons must then fill their container and promptly depart. To-go patrons may not eat inside the dining commons. No seconds are permitted for carry-out. Patrons may not eat in and also carry out a loaded to-go container during the same meal service period. To-go containers may only be purchased upon entry into the dining commons. Initially served portions are purposely modest. If you want more, politely ask. Please refrain from taking too much food and eat all the food you take to minimize waste. After eating a meal inside the dining commons, patrons are allowed to casually carry out. In moderation, the following limited food items only. A single piece of hand fruit. A single muffin, donut, bagel, or pastry. A single brownie or cookie. A single drink in a foam cup. A single serving of soft serve ice cream in a provided cone or small foam bowl. Patrons are prohibited from carrying out any other food items from the dining commons for any purpose including, but not limited to, the feeding of other persons or groups and/or stockpiling for future consumption. Patrons are responsible for bussing their own trays, plates, bowls, cups, utensils, and waste away from the tables and to the dishwashing drop-off window. Discard all disposables into the trash cans. Do not discard any reusable dishes or utensils. Place all loose dishes and utensils onto a tray before placing them onto the conveyor belt. Trays, Plates, bowls, cups, and utensils may not be carried out of the dining commons. Resident students may opt out of participation in the meal plan for the following 2 reasons only. Medical exemption. A resident student may opt out of the meal plan if the student and the health office have each received a letter from a licensed, practicing physician that documents the physician's completion of all of following procedural requirements. The physician has, within the past 60 days, performed a complete physical examination of the student. It is the physician's professional opinion, after direct discussion with both the college's food service director and the college's health services RN, that the food regularly offered in the dining commons is not compatible with the student's unique nutritional needs. It is the physician's professional opinion, after direct discussion with both the college's food service director and the college's health services RN, that the college is unable to reasonably make the necessary adjustments or additions to the menu to meet the student's unique nutritional needs. And it is the physician's professional opinion, after direct discussion with and education of the student, that the student will be able to meet all of his/her own unique nutritional needs without having to cook food inside his/her residence hall. Only using the appliances permitted inside the residence halls. Internship exemption. Resident students who are forced to miss dining commons meals due to an off-campus, college-approved, for credit internship may choose to opt out of the meal plan entirely after the start of the applicable semester or internship, whichever comes first. This option exempts the student from all meals for the remainder of the semester and no sooner than the first date of the applicable internship. No partial options will be granted. In opting out, the student's ID will be restricted from regular access to meal service. A proration of the unused portion of the student's prepaid meal plan for the semester will be refunded to the student. Once students have withdrawn from the meal plan, they will not be allowed to re-enroll in the plan until the following semester. Exercising this option requires completion of a form that can be obtained from the Office of Finance and must be authorized by the student's internship faculty supervisor contemporaneous with the start of the internship. Failure to comply with these terms and conditions may result in revocation of access privileges to the dining commons and/or disciplinary action. 8.3 Facilities Guidelines. 8.3.1 Classroom and Facility Use. All classroom and facility use on campus is governed in accordance with the property use policy which is posted on the CAMS portals. Students are free to use any of the classrooms whenever they are not reserved for some other use. Students may reserve classrooms through the scheduling and events coordinator. Students who have not reserved a classroom or other area are free to hang out unofficially, but must defer to prior reservations, as well as maintenance and cleaning crews. In all cases, the needs of the school take precedence. The campus master calendar is kept current by the scheduling and events coordinator and posted on the PHC website at http://www. All campus events are recorded and cleared through the scheduling and events coordinator. The scheduling of all campus facilities is also cleared through the scheduling and events coordinator at extension 8801. 8.3.2 Food and Drink. According to library policy, reasonable food and drink are allowed. This also applies to classrooms, unless the professor objects. Other rooms and spaces may have their own policies. Consumers of the food and drink should take full responsibility for any accidents. 8.3.3 Lost and Found. Any unattended personal items found lying around will be placed in lost and found bins located in residence hall laundry rooms, town hall, the student life office, and the west end of Founders Hall near Classroom 2. Every Friday these items are up for anyone to claim, and on Saturdays the unclaimed items will be disposed of. 8.3.4 Posters, Promotion, Publicity, and Announcements. Items posted in the Barbara Hodel Center may only be posted on the bulletin boards and must be approved by the Office of Student Life. 8.3.5 Telephones. There are telephones located in each residence hall lobby and in the lobby of Founders Hall, opposite the reception desk. Calling cards are needed for all long-distance calls. 8.3.6 Vending machines. Soda and snack vending machines are located around campus. If there is a problem with a vending machine, please call the vendor's toll-free customer service number placarded on the machine. 8.4 Guidelines for campus grounds. 8.4.1 Bicycles. Every bicycle brought to campus must be registered with the Office of Public Safety and Campus Services by submitting a completed bicycle registration form noting the make, model, serial number, and color. Bicycles are not allowed on campus without a bicycle permit. Permits cost $20 per semester and may be purchased on the student portal or obtained through the Office of Public Safety and Campus Services. The permit must be displayed on the main frame of the bicycle. Every bicycle must have a working lock mechanism, and all bicycles must be kept in good repair. Students must keep their bicycles locked at all times when the bicycles are not in use. The lock mechanism must be shown when registering the bicycle in order to receive a bicycle permit. If a bicycle becomes non-functional, the owner must remove it from campus. All bicycles must be removed from campus for each summer break, unless the student is a summer employee or when the owner permanently moves off campus. Patrick Henry College is not responsible for any damage to bicycles. Bikes should not be ridden over any landscaped grass or flower beds, and should be parked at a bike rack whenever they are not in use. Bike racks are located at Founders Hall, Hodel Center, and along Covenant Court. 8.4.2 Skating. Rollerblades, skateboards, and scooters are not to be used inside any campus building. Students are free to use these items on any of the campus pavement. Students are not to leave any of the above parked anywhere on campus, other than at the bike racks or in their residence hall room. 8.4.3 Swimming, boating, fishing, and ice skating. The pond located between the residence halls and the Founders Hall is a storm water drainage pond, designed to collect runoff from excessive rain and flooding. As such, it is subject to contamination by goose droppings, pesticides, fertilizer, and oil. Accordingly, swimming and fishing in the pond are not permitted. Virginia winters rarely get cold enough to thoroughly freeze the pond. The ice may look secure, but it could be extremely dangerous. No one is permitted on the ice at any time. Boating on the pond is acceptable at times, but must be pre-approved in each instance by the Office of Public Safety and Event Services. 8.4.4 Vehicle and parking. Any active student with a vehicle must display a valid PHC parking permit on said vehicle for each semester in which the student is active on the college rolls. No active student with a vehicle can evade this requirement. Driving and parking a vehicle on campus is a privilege and not a right, and may be revoked at the sole discretion of the college. Each such student is required to obtain their parking permit and register his or her vehicle with the Office of Public Safety and Campus Services by completing a vehicle registration and parking agreement form located on the student portal. Each vehicle must be registered immediately upon arriving on campus. Permits must be displayed in the lower driver's side corner of the rear windshield of the vehicle in a manner that it is easily seen from outside of the vehicle. Any and all expired parking permits shall be removed. All student parking permits cost $90 per semester. There is no cost for the summer parking decal. A valid state vehicle license and registration shall be maintained for each student vehicle parked on campus. The owner of each such vehicle must maintain liability insurance on each such vehicle as required by the State Department of Motor Vehicles. Only one motor vehicle per registrant may be parked on campus at any given time unless the Chief of Campus Safety has provided an exception. Students must obtain a short-term temporary parking permit for any rented, loaned, or borrowed vehicle they may need to park on campus. This temporary parking permit can be obtained on the student portal under Guest Registration or at the front desk of BHC. Each motor vehicle must be in a working, street-legal, roadworthy, drivable condition to park on campus. Students are prohibited from parking any motor vehicle on campus that does not meet all of the above stated criteria. Whenever any such vehicle becomes deficient in meeting one or more of the above stated criteria, the owner of the vehicle must immediately bring the deficiency to the attention of the Office of Public Safety and Event Services. An explanation of the problem and the time frame needed to resolve it must be agreed upon by the Office of Public Safety and Campus Services. The campus speed limit is 15 miles per hour. Drivers whose speed is perceived to be greater than this may be ticketed. Vehicles that are parked improperly will be ticketed and possibly towed at the owner's expense. The fact that a citation is not issued and a vehicle is illegally or improperly parked does not mean or imply that the applicable terms and conditions are no longer in effect. Students must park vehicles on campus, whenever they have reason to be on campus. One may not park in the neighborhood or shopping center across the street for free and walk to campus. Students may park only in the designated parking spaces on campus for which they are authorized. Parking in a handicapped space without a valid handicap permit, in the spaces reserved for bicycles, in the visitors' parking lots during business hours, in front of any building, or in any parking space not authorized by a student's PHC-issued permit is prohibited at all times. Commuter students can only park vehicles in spaces marked Visitor, in the large lower parking lot to the east of Founders Hall, or in an unmarked space in the Hodel Center parking lot. If these spaces are full, the gravel lot should be used. Student parking in spaces marked Staff and the visitors' parking lots is not allowed between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. on regular business days. Parking in front of a building or dormitory is only allowed for temporary loading purposes. Such parking shall only be on the far side of the road opposite the building entrance, shall never exceed 10 minutes, and is only allowed with four-way emergency flashers on. Stopping, standing, or parking along any fire lane is prohibited. The fire marshal may ticket any vehicle in a fire lane. Vehicles must be removed from campus for Christmas break and summer break, unless the student is employed on campus during the break. During the summer and Christmas break, students have the option of storing their vehicles in the gravel lot behind Founders. Students must submit the vehicle storage agreement along with a set of vehicle keys to Human Resources. The college is not responsible for loss or damage to vehicles parked on or in transit on PHC property, nor any contents or occupants therein. 8.5 ID cards. All students are issued student ID cards during orientation. These cards include a student picture, barcode, and expiration date. Student ID cards expire after the last day of each semester and must be validated at the beginning of each new semester. The ID cards are necessary to check books out of the library, to gain access to meal service in the dining commons, and to operate certain electronic door locks on campus. There is a $25 fee to replace a lost ID card. 8.6 Mail Center. A full-service mail center is located on the lower level of Hodel Center. Mail center hours are from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. It is closed on weekends and on holidays observed by the college. Each student is assigned a mailbox with a combination lock. Outgoing stamped mail can be dropped in the slot to the right of the mailboxes. Students will be notified if packages are received. Mail is not delivered to the residence halls. Mail addressed to students should follow the pattern of the address below. First name, last name. PHC box ####10 Patrick Henry Circle, Purcellville, Virginia 2013233198. 9.0 Student Computer and Technology Use. Please see the Student Computer and Technology Use policy in your student portal under College Publications. 10.0 Campus Health. See Campus Health Manual on the student portal in CAMS. 11.0 Finance. Please consult the catalog for information regarding tuition, financial aid, and billing policies. For more specific queries, please contact Student Billing or Financial Aid. 11.1 Student Employment. Job placements are coordinated through the Office of Human Resources. More information, including job postings and application forms, is available on the student portal. Student employees should refer to the Student Employee Manual for more detailed information. Appendix A, page 32. Appendix A, Judicial Process 1.0. Judicial Process Overview. Complaint form signed and filed. Notification of investigation sent to accused. Investigation by Office of Student Life. Self-report. If there is reasonable grounds to proceed, the student will select which review. Administrative review with one of the deans. Decision rendered. Hearing board review. If there is reason for appeal, student may appeal one final time to an appellate judiciary board, where the final decision is rendered. An appeal must be based on one of more of the following. A process or procedural error occurred. New information is available that was not previously available. The decision was arbitrary, there was a lack of substantial evidence. Appendix A, page 33. 1.1 Formal Hearing Process. If the student chooses a hearing board review, the student will be contacted by chosen board and provided with complaint and incident report form, copy of procedures, time and place for hearing, information about the composition of the board. The hearing will follow the hearing board procedures as outlined on pages 5 to 6. The hearing board decision will be prepared and copies produced for the accused, the hearing board file, and for the parents of the accused. The accused may appeal to the appellate judiciary board by submitting an appeal form to the Office of Student Life within 5 academic days of judgment rendered. If the appellate judiciary board decides to hear the appeal, all parties to the proceedings are to be provided with written notice of time and place for hearing not more than 5 academic days following the notice. Judicial process form filed by accused with Office of Student Life. On this form, the student will indicate which type of review will hear their case, administrative review or hearing board review. The hearing shall be conducted no later than 10 academic days from date request for judicial process form is filed. Appendix A, page 34. 1.2 Hearing Board Procedures. Statement of Purpose and Introduction of the Hearing Process read. Accused advised of rights with clarification as needed. Accused affirms understanding of rights. Contempt rule is read. Incident report form is read. Accused asked if he or she understands the allegation. Accused advised of possible penalties. Accused asked to admit or deny allegation. Presiding officer informs the board of new witnesses or evidence, if any, relating to the complaint. Introduction of all participants. Accused asked to introduce new witnesses or evidence, if any. Appendix A, page 35. Patrick Henry College Student Life Manual. Appendix A, page 36. 1.3 Judicial Process Forms. Form. Description. Completed by. Turned into. Complaint form. Contains names of accused and complainant, nature of complaint, and evidence. Any member of PHC community who has evidence of violation of a rule. Office of Student Life. OSL gives copy to hearing board if request for judicial process form is filed. OSL gives copy to appellate judiciary board if appeal form is filed. Incident report form describes investigation and what violations may have occurred. OSL filed by OSL and copy given to accused. OSL gives copy to hearing board if request for judicial process form is filed. OSL gives copy to appellate judiciary board if appeal form is filed. Request for judicial process form. Student states that he is initiating formal process and which board will hear case. Student who has received incident report form and wants case to be heard by a board. OSL. OSL gives copy to hearing board. OSL gives copy to appellate judiciary board if appeal form is filed. Appeal form states that student is appealing the decisions of administrative review or hearing board review. An appeal must be based on one of more of the following. A process or procedural error occurred. New information is available that was not previously available. The decision was arbitrary, lacking substantial evidence. Student who has received a decision from the dean or the hearing board must be filed within 5 academic days after receipt of decision from the dean or the hearing board. OSL. OSL gives copy to appellate judiciary board. Records request form requests records for a particular case. Records are only available for cases that proceed to the formal judicial process. Records are released within 5 academic days of request. Records will be released to either the accused or complainant with only his own signature. In cases involving allegations of sexual misconduct, both the accused and complainant must approve any release of records. Anyone, assuming accused and complainant both agree to release records. OSL. Appendix A, page 37. 1.4, Judicial Process Details. 1.4.1, Reporting Complaints. A complaint is a claim that a PHC student has violated a community standard. Any member of the college community may file a complaint form with the OSL. Complaints involving allegations of sexual harassment or assault, please follow the procedures outlined in our sexual misconduct policy. All other complaints must be filed within 30 calendar days of the incident. Requests for an extension to file a complaint may be made to the OSL no later than 14 calendar days before the deadline to file a complaint. The OSL then has 2 academic days to grant or deny the request. 1.4.2, The Office of Student Life. A. The Office of Student Life shall investigate complaints, keeping written documentation of all aspects of the investigation. The OSL will complete and file an incident report form and give a copy to the accused. B. The accused will indicate which review he or she may choose for judicial process with the OSL. C. If the accused indicates he or she would like to be reviewed by a hearing board, written documentation shall be provided to the accused not more than 5 days after the request is made by the accused or his advising representative. D. All records concerning a case heard before a board, including evidence and documentation of the investigation, shall be made available to the accused. Audio recordings may be listened to in the OSL, but they may not be removed and copies may not be made. Misrepresenting or omitting evidence is a serious violation of the community trust. E. Records of informal resolutions will not be available unless a case moves to the appeal judicial process. 1.4.3, Records. A. Records of student disciplinary cases shall be filed by the OSL in a secure manner to ensure confidentiality. Records for cases heard by hearing boards are released within 5 academic days of request. Records will be released to either the accused or complainant with only his own signature. B. The OSL will keep a cumulative record of all cases which reflects for each case the charges, the decision of the board, and the penalty given. The document will be updated after each case, so it is always kept current. All names will be omitted from this document, and the cases will be randomized. Any member of the PHC community may view this record in the OSL, but may not make copies of it. Normally, this document will contain records of cases from the past calendar year, but upon request, records for longer periods of time will be available. 1.4.4 Changes in Procedure. Changes to student judicial process procedure require the approval of the President. Appendix A, page 38. 1.4.5 Description of boards. The hearing board consists of 2 students elected by the Student Senate, 2 faculty members elected by the Faculty Senate, and 1 staff member elected by the Cabinet. The Appellate Judiciary Board consists of 1 faculty member elected by the Faculty Senate, 1 student elected by the Student Senate, and 1 Cabinet member elected by the Cabinet. All boards stand for 1 year. A quorum is required for all elections. Board members are eligible for reappointment. The body responsible for electing a representative may remove a member and may fill vacancies. 1.4.6 Penalties. The OSL or a hearing board review may choose to impose one or more of these penalties to a student who is found, based on the evidence available, to be responsible for the action of which the student is accused. A. Warning: a student may be given a formal written reprimand. B. Restitution: a student may be required to provide financial compensation to PHC or other parties in order to cover the cost of the damaged property. C. Monetary fine: a student may be required to pay a specified fine. D. Community hours: a student may be required to volunteer a specified number of hours without pay. E. Counseling: a student may be required to see to a counselor. F. Removal of activates or privileges for a specific period: the student may not participate in college clubs, events, and extracurricular activities. This includes intercollegiate and intramural athletics, student government, and other social events. G. Involuntary removal of offending cause: if a student's property, such as pets or stereos, is the subject of a complaint, the student may be required to remove the property from campus. H. Involuntary relocation: involuntary relocation requires a student to move to a different room, different residence hall, or off campus by a specific date. I. Probation: probation is a specific period of time during which the student's behavior is under a special scrutiny. Violations occurring during this time will be considered more serious than they would without the condition of disciplinary probation. J. Suspension from college activities: the student will not be permitted to engage in PHC activities, official clubs, college sporting events, debate tournaments, etc. K. Suspension from the campus: the student will not be permitted to engage in PHC activities and may not reside or eat on campus for a specific period of time. This suspension may also extend to the remainder of the semester and require the student to reapply for admission to the college. L. Expulsion: student status is permanently terminated. Appendix A, page 39. (2.0) Terms, definitions, and composition of the disciplinary system. 2.1 Individuals. 2.1.1 Accused. One or more students who are alleged on a complaint form to have broken a PHC rule. 2.1.2 Complainant. One or more persons who file a complaint form. 2.1.3 Advisor. Each accused and complainant may have a non-participating advisor present at hearings. This advisor may be a parent or a member of the PHC community. The advisor will not act as a representative during the hearing, but may be consulted by the accused or complainant at any point during the hearing. If the case involves accusation of sexual misconduct, misdemeanor, or felony, the accused and complainant may hire an outside attorney as a non-participating advisor. 2.1.4 Member of the college community. Members of the college community are PHC students, PHC faculty and staff, and members of the PHC Board of Trustees. 2.1.5 Presiding Officer. The presiding officer conducts the hearing and shall be chosen by the board in question. He is responsible for explaining the judicial procedures to those involved in the hearing and for delivering summonses, subpoenas, and other hearing paperwork. 2.1.6 Student. Student herein refers to PHC student. 2.2 Other definitions. 2.2.1 Office of Student Life. The OSL consists of all full-time professional staff members reporting to the Vice President for Student Life. If a situation arises in which none of these individuals are able to perform their duty as described herein, the Dean of Student Life may designate another individual, which may not be a student, to serve on behalf of the OSL. 2.2.2 College Hearing Board. College Hearing Board refers to any of the boards described herein. These may also be referred to as the Hearing Board or the Board. 2.2.3 Complaint. A complaint is an alleged violation described on a complaint form. Appendix A, page 40. 2.2.4 Contempt Rule. The rule states, any act or conduct which violates the instructions or procedural rules of or shows disrespect for the dignity or authority of the College Hearing Board while in session, or which obstructs, interrupts, prevents, or embarrasses or tends to obstruct, interrupt, prevent or embarrass the investigation, the hearing, or the administration of justice shall constitute contempt of the board. Any member of the College Hearing Board may instigate a contempt charge, and it shall be decided by a majority vote of the board. Contempt charges brought during a hearing shall be decided at that hearing. 2.2.5 Summons. A summons is an order to an accused or complainant to appear at the hearing. The OSL and the presiding officer may issue summonses. If the summoned individual does not appear at the hearing, he will be considered in contempt. 2.2.6 Subpoena. A subpoena is an order to anyone other than the accused and complainant to appear at the hearing. Subpoenas may be issued by the OSL or the presiding officer. If the subpoenaed individual does not appear at the hearing, he will be considered in contempt. 2.2.7 Summary suspension. In cases where the safety of people or property is endangered by the presence of a student on campus, the Dean of Student Life may suspend the student prior to any hearing. In this case, the summarily suspended student will be given the opportunity for a hearing within 10 days of the suspension or as soon as reasonably possible. Appendix A, page 41. 3.0 General Operating Procedures. 1. One hearing may be held for multiple students accused of participation in a single violation. Upon request of an accused, the OSL or a presiding officer may grant a separate hearing. 2. The OSL and the presiding officer of a hearing may issue summonses and subpoenas at any point before or during a hearing. Other individuals may request that the OSL or presiding officer issue summonses or subpoenas. If a student fails to appear after receiving a summons or subpoena, that person may be held in contempt. 3. If the accused is properly notified but fails to appear at a hearing, the board may decide to begin the hearing in the absence of the accused. It may also arrange for a new hearing. The accused may be held in contempt for failing to appear at the hearing. 4. In deciding whether or not the accused is in violation of a rule, the board must consider the facts of the case at hand and not the facts or outcomes of previous cases involving the accused. Character witnesses may provide evidence of the general truthfulness or untruthfulness of the accused, but no witness may present facts of previous violations or alleged violations. An exception allowing evidence from previous hearings may be made at the discretion of the board if it determines that the facts of a prior case heard before a board are important to determining the truth of the case at hand, but if this exception is made, the board should exercise due diligence in understanding the whole of the facts of the prior case in order to avoid prejudice. The decision of violation or no violation should ultimately be based on the evidence of the case at hand. 5. In determining penalties, the board may consider the nature of the violation, the attitude of the accused, extenuating circumstances, and the prior conduct record of the accused. 6. The board must decide cases based upon the standard of clear and convincing evidence. The board will consider the whole of the evidence, including considerations of bias, consistency, and credibility of witnesses. In all cases, the accused shall be presumed innocent unless the evidence is determined through the judicial process described herein to rise to the requisite standard. 7. If an accused student withdraws from the college before his hearing takes place, he may still participate in the hearing. If a student chooses not to participate, the hearing will still be held. Readmission may be affected by unresolved investigations or cases decided against a student. 8. The OSL is responsible to see that penalties are carried out. Upon completion of penalties, the OSL will note this in the written record of the case and give a copy of this statement to the accused, indicating that the case has been closed. 9. Basic standards of fairness are required in the presentation of evidence. The accused has the right to present reasonable evidence for his defense, and the complainant has the right to present reasonable evidence to support the complaint. The presiding officer may decide to exclude evidence from deliberation that does not meet basic standards of fairness, and a majority of the board may vote to override the presiding officer. The hearing may be recessed by the presiding officer in order to gather more evidence. Appendix A, page 42. 10. In cases involving allegations of sexual misconduct, care should be taken in the treatment of the complainant during the hearing. Evidence of sexual behavior of the alleged victim with the accused may be presented. However, evidence of the general reputation of the alleged victim concerning sexual behavior is not admissible unless relevance and reliability are first established. In determining whether such evidence will be allowed, the board must weigh the value of the evidence with the possibility of undue prejudice. These cases will be private. 11. Each accused and complainant has the right to a non-participating advisor as described in Appendix A. 12. In order for a hearing to take place, all members of the board must be present. If a board member is unable to attend or chooses to recuse himself, the body that chose that member may elect a substitute. A member of the OSL may also choose to recuse himself during informal resolution. 13. Hearings are closed by default to all but the accused, the complainant, their non-participating advisors, and hearing board members. The board may vote to allow other individuals to attend the hearing. The trial shall be open to the campus community at the request of the accused. In cases of sexual harassment or assault, the trial shall not be open to the campus community. 14. Graduation of a student may be denied or delayed until an open case has been closed. Appendix A, page 43. 4.0. Rights of the accused and the complainant. 1. These rights must be read to the accused at the beginning of each hearing. 2. Any accused shall have the right to a formal judicial process and to choose whether his case will be heard before the hearing board. 3. The accused and complainant have the right to a non-participating advisor as defined in Appendix A. This right is subject to the limitations described in Appendix A. 4. At least 2 academic days before the hearing, the accused must be notified if there are witnesses prepared to testify against him and be informed of the nature of the testimony to be given. The accused will also be given the opportunity to examine other evidence submitted against him. The complainant shall also receive the same notification 2 academic days before the hearing. 5. The accused has the right to call a reasonable number of witnesses as determined by the hearing board. 6. Subject to the provisions herein, the accused has the right to an open hearing if desired, except in cases involving allegation of sexual misconduct, which will be closed unless both the accused and complainant consent to an open hearing. 7. The OSL shall make a recording of each hearing. Recordings are considered part of the record of the hearing and will be kept by the OSL, but will only be available to be heard in the OSL. A secretary will take minutes during the hearing, which become part of the official record of the case. The minutes will be released in the event that the whole record is released. 8. Any accused has the right to hear testimony and see evidence against him during the course of a hearing. While the accused may not question witnesses, he has the right to express to the board,